Well, hi again. This is Brian Knight, founder and CEO of Pragmatic Works, and today I'm here with Mac, our company mascot, and Tim Lulick, our COO. So, Tim, today we're going to talk about some of the startup mistakes that we've made, and that I've made, and you've made, and what people are commonly finding in the industry. So, let's go to the whiteboard and kind of discuss some of the mistakes that we find people make when starting up a brand new company.
That's a great idea. There's many of them, and I hope they're helpful.
So Tim, one of the common questions I get asked from other entrepreneurs that are out there is, what are some of the mistakes that I've made in the past and that you've made in the past? Lord knows you've made plenty of them.
Yep.
As you start up a new company, and we have a lot of battle scars to this point that we have learned.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think are some of the ones that you've experienced and I've experienced?
Well, one of the things that I've experienced is when you're starting up a business, there's so much enthusiasm. It's usually when people have cash on hand. So you're meeting at the table, you're having the napkin, you've had a couple beers, you're going to start on Monday, you go and incorporate, and both people that are getting into business together tend to have some sort of money set aside to do that.
Right.
And one of the biggest mistakes they've made is they'll go and invest in that company in a way as if they're already big. Try to get along with the least amount of spending as possible.
So don't buy that big. Even if you do get venture capital, don't buy that big townhouse, work condo,
offices.
So
that's a perfect example. Yeah, getting some huge office because you feel like within 6 months you're going to have 20 or 30 people working.
Assume you're not going to make it.
That's a great spend like you're not going to make it. Absolutely. Right. And I would also say another thing, especially in IT, that people tend to do is they'll spend on hardware and things that are fun to techies, and you'll start getting this false sense of security, like spending is actually accomplishing things for your business, and it's not. It's basically keeping you from doing what you need to do, which is basically focus on selling your services or tools.
Yeah, along with focus line is you want to make sure you're when we first started, we focused only on DTS Exchange, our software product that converts DTS to SIS.
Right.
Our marketing, our sales effort, everything focused on that one message.
Like a laser.
Like a laser, and if we started doing new classes and it would distract us.
That's right.
Your sales guy has that customer on the phone for, 30 seconds usually?
Yeah, absolutely. So, that's a very good example of what I believe in my experience and your experience is basically to have that focus. So when we did do DTS Exchange, there were a lot of different options that we could have. Brian was a well-known book author who was delivering training both on-site and online, and a consultant. So we could have sold things that got us, sort of over the gaps along the way, but we decided not to. And what we did do is we looked at ways that we could make sure we connected with customers, drove the value of DTS Exchange in the form of a demo, a download, and a trial that started the sales of that tool.
Absolutely.
Stay focused.
All right, one of the big mistakes that we've seen with partners also is about having transparency.
Yep.
And really, especially with cash flow.
Yep.
I've made mistakes where my other partners had exclusive
Don't bring
access.
up names.
Yeah. That they had exclusive access to the bank account in many cases, and I had no visibility. Little I know, they were doing things funny in the bank account.
And I've had the same sort of experience as Brian. And if those things happen to you, don't feel badly. You're probably right in line with most people, including Brian and I in the world. It's very hard to have trust in a partnership and to get that transparency that builds trust. And so one of the things that I believe anybody should do if you're getting into business with a new person is, one, everything. Let's say you're using QuickBooks, for example, for your accounting software. Have reports go out on a weekly basis. We happen to do it on Sunday, where you're getting things like the balance sheets, you're getting the P&L. Also have somebody who's also outside of the partnership who would be the bookkeeper, so you have an independent resource that's doing those books, and you have balance, and you have basically transparency and exposure to all the places.
That's what's brilliant about the cloud now. Also, the internet is like, for our example, our books are in the cloud.
Right.
So if Tim really wanted to see the books on a Sunday, he can log in. Yes, it might be read only or read write, but he can at least make sure that I'm not doing kind of funny business.
That's right, and make sure whoever you're in business with, even if you're starting with 2 and you grow to sort of 5 or 6 business partners that all have an interest, they all share in the risk. Make sure you understand and respect them and give them read-only access to all of the different things that happen with cash.
And if you're not doing anything funny, you've got nothing to worry about.
Right, that's right. Keeps you honest.
Now, I love this one. Nice to death. This is a great, I know a whole bunch of English majors right now are rolling over right now saying, what the heck? They've been a new word, nice to death.
Yeah, we in sales tend to do that, right? But Brian and I have learned this one very well, especially Brian. Brian's a guy who's, again, well-known in the community. He's a book author and so on. And so people
tell me more about that.
That's right. Everybody other than myself, right? So here's what happens with Nice to Death. You tend to be, especially if you're somebody who's well known, who would be going out and starting your own business, people will not say no to you, even if they don't really mean that they're going to go along with your tool, your training, or your service that you're selling. So you have to be careful when you're selling your new business and your new product that you recognize when people are just going, they're kicking you down the road. They're telling you something you want to hear, but they're not necessarily interested in it.
Yeah, well, call me next month. I might have money then, or I might have time to do a demo then. And frankly, it's the same thing on employees as well.
Yeah.
We have some employees that cannot tell me no.
Right.
Even though, yes, I'm a CEO, but I like hearing no sometimes.
Right. So even if Brian has a bad idea, hey, I want to have a hammer, and I'm going to go do something really crazy. People in the office will say, Brian, that's a great idea.
Let's do it. Let's go with it too.
And I say, Brian, no, that's not a good idea. You're right. That's a great idea. Yeah, that's a great example. Yeah.
All right. So the ROI piece, this is an important piece. No matter what kind of company you start, you got to be able to demonstrate some kind of ROI. It can't just be a very cool product that does absolutely nothing. It's got to have some kind of demonstrable ROI of what? What do you mean?
That's a perfect segue from Nice to Death, because typically if you're being nice to death, it means that your product doesn't have a real true ROI. And by those of you who don't know ROI, it's return on investment, right? That's a very common term, well known. But reality is you need to save people time, you need to make better quality, or be saving them some sort of cost. By at least 80% is the example. In my experience, that's what you need to do. So if you're going to save on, let's say, licensing, for example, so this customer might be licensing a certain product in their environment, and it's $1,000, and you can come in and say, I can save you on licensing and make that cost only $200. Then you've got a product, you've got an ROI. You're saving that customer $800 in that example.
A great example that also in our industry was used to sell a product called a compression product.
Right.
And it would compress databases down from about 75%, right?
Yeah.
The backups. You save storage costs by at least 75, 80%. So
Right.
the ROI was very demonstrable. You used to spend $1 million in hard drives. Now you're spending $250,000.
Right.
So are you going to buy a $2,000 tool to save that $700,000?
Right. And that product was famously successful in the SQL world. Many of you will know that. There's multiple products in that space now.
Unfortunately, whenever you are successful and you have that ROI, others will join also, and that's what happened in that product.
That's right, yeah.
Including the main database vendor of choice.
So that's right. And it gets really hard to understand your ROI at 80% when you're starting about, and most of us will come up with ideas that are more about quality, improving quality of whatever it is you're doing, or time. So, hey, I can save the developer X amount of time. I can save the DBA X amount of time. Those are things that can easily get you into this nice to death column, and you have to be careful of that when you're
because it starts ROI becomes fuzzy at that point, right? Yes, there's ROI. Quality is an ROI,
right?
But it's a lot harder to sell quality ROI than it is
a compression ROI.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So that's one of the fun things about starting a business. There's a lot more topics on this, but these are some of the 4 things that we thought we'd bring up right now. Thank you for joining us, and Tim, thank you for coming to Jacksonville.
Again, I hope it was helpful.
Thank you.